Good afternoon, everybody. It is November 2nd, 2011. November 2nd, man, I can't believe it. My name is Dan Boul, and I'm president of 65 Amps. And I'm coming to you from my office today in North Hollywood, California. I know there's a lot of new people checking in today. So just for those of you that don't know, I'm broadcasting and recording. And please log in and ask questions if you like. Today I have the producer again. And let's see me get the right camera angle here. I'm playing. Now this cab's not actually on. I just brought it in. I have another one just like this that's on the other side of the wall that you're listening to. But I posted these pictures yesterday and everyone liked it so much that I thought I'd bring it in. And I've got my Strymon pedals here. And I'm running them through the front. Let me turn it off. And if you hear me hit a lot of clinkers today, I split my thumbnail and have a bandage on my thumb, so I'm playing a little clunky. Turn a little echo back on. I'm running just the effects into the front. This amp has an effects loop, but I actually like to run them through the front. So. See, there's the bandage. Did you hear it? Lots of sparkle for a Les Paul. Well, the producer is a sparkly amp. I'm on channel 1 on the first of 4 voices. So if I stay on channel 1, which is the American side, and boost it a little bit. Then I can go over to channel 2, which is all cranked up. I'm on the 4th voice. I got too much echo for the dirt, don't I? We'll just go dry. Sounds kind of gritty through here. I'm hoping that's just the headphones. I think I have part of my signal chain over here that's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Poopy? Put a little compression on the front. Hear that tape echo howl. Turn the echo off. Just a little compression. So, for those of you that might be here for the first time, I'm playing an amp called the Producer, which doesn't have a faceplate on it yet, but I have the artwork for it. We're going to get them made next week because we're going to start delivering this amp. It's a pair of EL34s that I'm running in a very unconventional way that is amazingly safe. We've always stayed away from EL34 amps for several reasons, one of which is they're usually too loud for most people. I mean, they sound great, but nobody... Hey, Bill Strange. Nobody can play that loud, so... So we came up with a way to run them kind of very cool, and we dropped the voltage and changed the bias and changed the way the current's being delivered. We had some special transformers made from Mercury Magnetics. Thank you, Mercury. Nobody's ran tubes like this before, so there's no sort of off-the-shelf transformer that'll do what we need it to do, but the biggest surprise was the clean sound. But you don't expect this kind of clean sound out of EL34s, do you? You can hear my thumb bandage go boom. So let me put a little sweetness on it. I have my Strymon pedals here and put a little reverb. Yeah, I have my other Les Paul here, Bill. Make it nice and wet for those of you who are reverb fans. I have the reverb running in the front, so it gets a little distorted. So anyway, EL34s, you don't expect that, but then you can just go right over to, what channel? Did I get it right? Yeah. Now the reverb doesn't sound good on distortion. Turn that reverb off. I can give you some slapback echo, Bill, if that's what you want. Ouch. Like I said, I have a bandage on my thumb, so excuse my clinkers today. Sounds like you're playing at State Fair, doesn't it? Yes, Gibson Guitar Guy, great question. Does the clean sound as good as the Empire with 6v6s? I think it just sounds different. It's more Fendery, believe it or not. I'll put a single coil in here, you'll see what I mean. Les Paul's not the best to show that. The clean on the Empire is a British clean, you know, it's not American at all. So don't fall into the mental trap of, oh, it's 6v6s and all 6v6s sound the same. They sound the same in the same kind of circuits, and since 99% of amp makers copy the same 5 circuits that have been around for 50 years, you kind of tend to think that, but the 6v6 will do anything. Yeah, my other Les Paul's out in the shop, Bill, and somebody can grab it and bring it in, but is there a reason you want to hear that one instead of this one? Yeah, that's right, Neil. I mean, honestly, 98% of amp makers just make the same 5 amps over and over again. So 6v6s always sound the same if you make a Fender Deluxe. Yeah, sure, Bill. It's no problem. We'll go could you mind grabbing my yellow Les Paul that's out there? Because Bill Strange is a nerd. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. Is my mic on? I'm kidding, Bill. It's fine. But it's a normal mistake, Gibson guitar guy. Everybody says, well, EL34 sound like that, EL84 sound like this. Everyone that makes an EL84 amp makes a Vox. Everyone that usually makes a 6P6 amp does a Deluxe. Everyone that makes an EL34 amp copies a Plexi. We don't do any of that. So the tubes are actually way more robust than that, but if you just keep copying what older things have done. I am on the first, let me see if we can see it. Oh, let me bang up the guitar. I got cables under my chair. I don't know if you can see the LED, but I'm over here on the first channel on the low gain, so the bump is off, but I got it turned up loud enough that I can get a little bit of distortion out of it. If I hit it hard, you know. Neck pickup. I like just a little hair around it like that. Thank you. I like the offset logo too. I thought it looked a little more elegant. Instead of the predictable, everybody's logo's right there, so I'm going to put my logo right there. All right, let's change Les Pauls really quick. So Bill Strange will know that it's not a recording of somebody playing a different guitar. Right, Bill? Yeah, it is like an old Marshall. It's a clone of, I have a 1970, you've seen pictures of it, 1970 cabinet out there. So there you go, Bill. Sounds pretty similar, doesn't it? It's a little lighter Les Paul, so it sounds a little spankier. You're hearing G12H30s. Thank you. This guitar my wife bought me for my 40th birthday, and it's all tricked out. Duncan pickups in there. Turn that. It's a little bit crispy, isn't it? Let's warm it up a little bit here. So I'll have it again next week with a faceplate on it. Pearly gates, no, these are just Duncan Antiquities. Seymour made for me. But you can get your good ZZ Top. You can hear that 412 thump. I don't know how well it's coming across on the internet, but I'm feeling it through the wall. This cabinet really thumps tight. It's not a big mushy cabinet. 2 speakers are mic'd. I've got my same 3 complement of microphones. You know, there's 2 mics that are reasonably close and a room mic. Yes, I am on the boost right now, Gibson Guitar Guy. Take the boost off. So this is just the basic rhythm. On the British side, and then you can boost it. It is very reactive guitar, Bill, and this 412 cabinet that we made is punchy. $412 will be $13.95, and it'll be available in dealers about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Got to make some more. Hey, look, my Gibson won't stay in tune. Boom. Let's go back to a little bit greased up sound. You can hear that big cabinet though, it's got a lot of grunt to it. So the cabinet is A-grade Baltic birch with no voids or no knots in it, and it is made with proper joinery, just like old cabinets where you see so many I don't know anyone making one today, but it's all B-grade wood, and it's made with butt joints and rabbet joints and nails. Baffle boards are made out of particle board instead of real birch. Our baffle board is 5/8 inch birch. The cabinet's real. It's a piece of furniture, man. It's incredibly well made. And it sounds like it. You know, it's amazing. Why does my old basket weave cab sound so good? My new front cab doesn't. Because your new front cab is made with Chinese wood and it's nailed together. Nails don't sound good. I don't know if anyone ever pointed this out to you, but nails don't sound good. And your cabinet is resonating in sympathy with your speakers, and if you've got nails in it, or you got really weak joints, or you have wood that has knots or voids in it, that does not resonate musically, nor does it resonate loudly. So if you have good wood with proper joinery in it, boom, you get some spank. So there's a big difference between having a cabinet that looks right and a cabinet that sounds right. It's a 1/4 inch jack. Gibson Guitar Guy. It's a stereo, tipped ring sleeve, 1/4 inch jack. You can buy the switch or the cable at any guitar store. Oh, not with that guitar. You can set it in the chair or something. That one too precious. Too precious. So I had a lot of guys ask for the 12 string. You guys want to do that? My Rickenbacker 12 string. We can go all Beatles. Go Beatles. Wait, is that enough Les Paul, Bill? You feel good? We can do that. Let's go to another world of guitars. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, Gibson Guitar Guy. It's all standard stuff. There's no proprietary things here other than what's inside the chassis. We do proprietary circuits and we have proprietary transformers, but as far as being able to work with the guitar, oh good, it's already gone out of tune. does that go? I can't remember how to play it now. That's not right, isn't it? That's the bottom part. Oh, I need your love. Now, no MIDI. This is a hand-wired amp. If I wired in MIDI circuits in this thing, it'd be as big as my desk. So now that I couldn't resist and put down a deposit on a producer, any idea of a firm delivery date? Yeah, we're going to start shipping them in about 3 weeks. It depends on where you are in that line. If you order one today, we'll be lucky to get them out by Christmas. We got a lot on pre-order. Baby, these chord progressions are great. The Beatles are endless. You're in Canada. Does that affect delivery? No. No, not at all. We deliver to Canada. Where are you in Canada, Gibson Guitar Guy? Mine was Day Tripper. That's not a 12-string song, but I'll play it. Got a good reason. New Brunswick. Okay. Yeah. It'd be fine. Who'd you order it through? Or who do you want to order it through? I knew what you meant. Fredericktown, New Brunswick. I know the geography of Canada reasonably well. For an American. My dad's wife's from Montreal, so I get it. Yeah, Boutique Tone. Call Jeremy at Boutique Tone. There's a weird balance knob on these Rickenbackers. You can find all kinds of strange in-between sounds. What is it? It's not an A, though, is it? I can't remember it now. I got something to say that might cause you pain. I let you messing with that girl again. I'm gonna let you down, leave you flat. Everybody's good. I'm the one who won your love. Is that it? he play? How does he finger that? Anyway, you get it. 12 string. Even out of tune, it sounds all right, right? I just don't have time to tune a 12 string now. Oh, Neil, this is a 660. 660 12. Solid body, stays in tune a little better than the hollow bodies. Plus the neck is normal size. The hollow body ones to me always sound kind of weird. I mean, hard to play. The necks are so skinny. Let me turn this down just a hair, get a little cleaner. This is G12H's, Brett. That's what you're listening to. How much for the head? How much for your little girl? Gibson Guitar Guy writes, how much for head? That's just too easy. I don't even know what to say to that. The amplifier costs $36.95. The other thing costs a lot more than that. So I got the amp kind of heated up here, and I got the effects going in the front, so they're distorting a little bit, but I kind of like that. It's not Nashville clean at all. Yes, Guitar Guy, $36.95 for the head. It's a lot of amplifier in there, and you're never going to blow up tubes in this. What key is turn, turn, turn in? I can't remember that. I remember the song, I just can't remember what key it's in. To everything. Something like that. Yeah, I'm in G. It sounds right, doesn't it? I haven't run 66s in it yet. Probably sounds great. But 34s seem to really be... responsive in this circuit. And I like it. Let's do a little reverb on there. It's almost too bright, isn't it? Let me... warm it up a little bit. Hey, Mr. Tambourine. What's it? Something like that. Yeah, I'm on channel 1. I got it kind of hot, just to get a little bit of edge on it. Something like that. That's as close as I can get to Tambourine Man. Yeah, it's close to being in tune. Yeah, what other good 12 strings are there? Actually, this amp sounds great with 212s. 412's an option. It sounds great. Most of the time I've played it, it's been through our 212. The 212 Avatar with Kendrick Brown frames, good question. Those are Jensen copies. I don't know. Avatar cabinets are great. I don't know about those speakers. I don't know if they're good or not. I've never played them, but they're probably fine. This amp's not going to sound bad with anything. It's going to sound great. Go ahead and pass out, Nick. It's fine. It's fine. Let's get some modulating reverb on here. Yeah, I was just playing this yesterday through a 212 Fender Bassman cabinet from the early 60s. With 2 JBL 120s in it. It sounded great. It's Mike, who works here, has this great cabinet. FS75, this is a good question. Actually, I'd like to address it for a minute. FS75 says, what do you think about cabs with 2 different size speakers, like 8, 10, 10, and 12, etc.? There's pros and cons to that. Normally, it doesn't work out very well. And here's why. And you'll notice there's not a lot of those cabs on the market because people try it a lot and then it never really works out. A 10-inch voice coil and a 12-inch voice coil move completely differently. So what you're going to find is the 10-inch is faster than the 12, but the 12 is going to dominate because it's so big. And sometimes you can actually they'll be out of phase at certain frequencies because those cones and coils don't move exactly the same because they're different. And if you mix a 10 and a 12 or an 8 and a 10, etc., yeah, Martin Gooseland's getting it here too. They'll get out of phase at a lot of different frequencies. And if you can measure what frequency those particular speakers get out of phase, and you can do the math and tell you that it's going to get out of phase in all these other frequencies too. It's a neat idea, but it just doesn't work practically. Personally, it's not one of my favorites. I've seen a lot of people try it, and you always listen to the cabinet and go, doesn't really do it. So, humble opinion, take it with a grain of salt. A lot of companies have had that idea. Then they make it and listen to it and go, eh. This is cathode bias, B767400. I love that handle. Very simple. It's cathode biased, and I'm not going to tell you where it's biased at because that's my secret Kentucky Fried Chicken formula. They're biased very safely, though. Yeah, Gibson guitar guy. It's going to sound good with any cabinet. None of those cabinets you have are going to sound bad at all. They'll sound great. I mean, I think it'll sound a little different with our cabinet because it's designed around there, but it works fine with anything. It's a very, very versatile amp. You can get almost any kind of sound out of it. So, I mean, you just heard me playing a Les Paul and getting full-on raunch, and here I am doing hippie stuff right now. Yeah, B767400, if you have a matched set of Mullard XF2s, they will be happy as a pig in poop. It's the polite version of it. They'll be great. Those tubes are, I mean, these tubes are modern current production tubes, and they're going to last for 20, 25 years. Those Mullards are barely going to be on. Hi, Derek. Oh, that's the tune I was trying to remember. Oh, leaves are brown. I got too much reverb on here, don't I? Let's fatten this thing up. The song's actually capoed, so I'm playing it without a capo, but you get the idea. Martin Gooslin asks, will NOS tubes sound better than modern tubes in the producer? I don't think so. I think it'll just sound different. General Strike in Oakland and Dan pumping out the protest tunes. Like a cool time warp. Yeah, that's right, man. I grew up on a college campus in the 60s. I love protests. I think it's great. You get to be American. Woo! Express your voice. Even if you don't agree with people, you got to commend their spirit, right? What speaker cables do you guys prefer and have had good luck with? I use Colossals and Solid. That's my favorites. They're great. Yeah, I've seen Evidence cables. Those are good too. They're very good studio cables. So, all the leaves are brown and the sky is gray, right? Where did that come from? Who's the first to tell me the song, the Beatles song, that it was completely ripped off from, that whole progression and that whole song? I know there's a delay here, so I'm going to give you a few seconds. I'll give you a hint. The Beatles song is in D. And it's a mid-period Beatles song. Yes? Anybody? Come on, Beatles trivia. This is great. I'll give you one hint. Life is very short, and there's no time fussing and fighting. It's 2 years earlier than the Mamas and Papas. Try to see it my way. They took the B section on We Can Work It Out and made an entire song out of it. Telling you, man, the Beatles spawned like what, 5 or 6 distinct movements in pop and rock and roll just from one song. Look at Helter Skelter. That's heavy metal. First heavy metal song ever. Inspired a whole movement of people from that one song, right? But yes, doesn't that sound hauntingly familiar? What year is my Les Paul Standard? 2005, I think. And then the red one is an R8 Historic from 2002, 2003, something like that. Haunting, isn't it? Thank you. Yeah, I like both my Les Pauls. They're keepers. They're very different, but they're good. How's it go? How's it go? I can't remember now. Something like that. Excuse me. What is it? Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl. I think it's in D. Where John completely shreds his voice. You make me dizzy, Miss Lizzie. Will you rock and roll? Rock and roll on a 12 string. It's not what they had intended. Turn this all down a little bit. Neck pickup on a Rickenbacker. Not the best, is it? Especially the 412 is a little rumbly. Brett asks, Dan, what's the most time-consuming process of building amps? Well, the wiring up is pretty lengthy. No, this is Strymon reverb. The actual wiring up, the designing takes months. But the actual construction, the wiring up of the amp for the competent builder can take anywhere from 7 hours to 20. It depends on the amp, of just stringing wires together. the way we make stuff. I mean, you can make them quicker. How many builders do we actually have? I have one master builder and 2 other builders. So. Can you hand me that paper with the artwork on it? This is the faceplate on the producer, although the font isn't right. But this is what it's going to look like. That makes any sense? So, you like the clean sound here? Who builds the cabs and chassis? We have 2 vendors for our cabinets. Yeah, we don't make them here. I'm sorry, I got this bandage on my finger. Our builders are inside, and the chassis are made here in the Valley in LA. Yeah, Gibson Guitar Guy. All of our amps are black and tan unless you order a special color. Let me get out of here where you can reverse. That's the 412 cabinet. And that's our standard black and tan head. Yeah, I'll do green, whatever you want. If you want to order, it can just add time to your order, but not that much. But everything we try, Brad, is we try to make it here in Southern California. Our cabinets are made here in Southern California. The chassis are made here. Our logos are made in Chicago. Our caps are made in New Jersey. Our electrolytics are made in Virginia. The resistors that we get are made all over North America, Canada, US, Mexico. Same company for the most part. Our speakers are, from Celestion. Our vents are made right here in the Valley in Chatsworth. I'm trying to think of everything else. Yeah, it's all American that we can. Of course, the tubes aren't made here, but tubes are made in Eastern Europe. The foot switch is just a standard 2-button foot switch. I just got some shop beater switch hooked into it right now. This is all I'm using. Just standard metal foot switch. Foot switches are not an art form. They're just switches. And you jump up and down on them and they break. And sort of like tires on your car, Yeah, you got 2 channels, each with an independent bump, Neil. So you got 4 voices. Nope, 2 buttons. One button switches you between channels, and then the other button turns the bump off or on those respective channels. Now on the amp, I have little switches here, so you can default where you want the bump to go to. So when you go to channel 2, if you automatically want the bump on, you do that. You can set the default on the amp. So you got all 4 voices right there. Nope, just 2 buttons. I just want to do a standard foot switch. I don't want you to have to go out and buy a proprietary foot switch, you know. Schönen guten Abend. Dan, I'm late tonight. Did Sambora like the producer? Yes, Sambora did like the producer. And schönen guten Abend auch. Mr. Goofy 65. Bis bald. Vielen Dank für deine Zeit. So you can leave the bump on both or just one or none if you want. That's correct, Gibson Guitar Guy. With these default switches here, you can just set it so that it's where you want it to go. So you can go from voice 1 to voice 3, voice 1 to voice 4, voice 2 to voice 3, voice 2 to voice 4, however you want to set it up. And you can still toggle it from the foot switch, so you're not married to that. That's my foot right there in the camera. So you're not married to it at all. You can still toggle it from the foot switch. You're just setting the default. Where's it going to go? You know? Fast perfekt Deutsch. Meine Oma kommt aus Deutschland. Sorry guys, I'm speaking bad German to Goofy 65. Meine Oma wurde in Münster geboren. Aber sie ist jetzt 20 Jahren gestorben. Habe ich die meisten meiner Deutsche vergessen. That was very nice of you. Almost perfect German. I haven't really spoke German regularly for years and years. When am I coming to Norway again? I don't know. Yeah, I do talk to Reinhold Wagner. Yeah. Don't be impressed. It was just my geheimnisse Sprache, als ich ein Kind war. Damit niemand kann mehr verstanden. Verstanden. Shit, see, I'm forgetting. How many new Redline amps will we see in 2012? Anyway, vielen Dank, Goofy. 65. I have the little guy that I'm probably going to show on the show here in a few weeks. So at least one at NAMM. So yeah, that's probably it for now. I don't want to release too much stuff. It pisses our dealers off. They have to stock all kinds of stuff. Can't do it without dropping the D. That song's in drop D, the Beatles. First people to do drop D, 1963. Just want you to know that. But it's... I need that low D though. It won't be long now. Where is it? Oh, good question, Brett. So that's what I'm kind of asking. How many lines do you feel are sustainable, and what ones do you feel are your flagships? Well, the blue line is our top end stuff. They're more complicated. They're a little more functional. It's already 1 o'clock. I'm going to quit playing. The blue line, are sort of our flagship things. The red line stuff are sort of what we've learned from that technology. Like from making the red line or blue line amps, we've learned so many cool things that are really expensive to implement, but we've found ways to do it a little more affordable. I mean, obviously our red line amps aren't cheap. They're made like most boutique amps. So that way we can kind of do what we've learned at a more approachable price. We're going to do the red line, the blue line, and then eventually I want to make a printed circuit board line made in America that's even more affordable. But, we learned so much from the blue line stuff. It's like a big research laboratory for the blue line, and then we can apply that downstream. Sort of we're using sort of the Mercedes theory. Mercedes, they really just design S-Class cars and race cars. And then they take what they learned from the S-Class and apply it to the E-Class. And but a little simplified. An E-Class is a little smaller, a little more simple than the S-Class, but it's still a fantastic car. And then once they flesh that out, you'll see that technology show up in the C-Class. It's always that order. The S-Class gets all their cool stuff first. Like the S-Class was the first car with anti-lock brakes and first car in the world with airbags, all that kind of stuff. And then you'll see it blend into the E-Class, and then you'll see it eventually down to the C-Class. Once they get experienced at it and they get better at it and they learn and they do it in lower volumes, and then they can apply it to a larger number. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're doing that. The red line is our S-Class. And, I'm sorry, I'm so tired I can't even speak. The blue line is our S-Class, and the red line is our E-Class. And then we're eventually going to do a C-Class. We're tentatively calling it the silver line. But that won't be for years. We'll do the silver thing in a few years. So, Neil, right now, the only one we have in the red line is the London Pro. We have designs for about 10 amps, but I don't want my dealers to have to deal with all that. That's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Sorry, I'm vibrating like crazy. Does that answer your question, though, Brett? And then one day, Command will try to buy it. No, we're not going to sell the Command. I want to keep my business. I want to do it myself. No, Command doesn't own Fender. Fender owns Command. Fender's its own entity. Yeah, Fender bought Command, not the other way around. But anyway, does that make sense, Brett? Oh, I don't know about counting my millions. I know I'll be happy. I love my job. I love what I do. Absolutely adore it. I feel extremely lucky, dare I say blessed, to be able to do what I do. Very, very fun. And I get to come and play guitar every day, and I get to talk to you guys. Come on, dude. I get paid for this. It's crazy. I don't get paid well, but I get paid. And I like it. So what other questions do you guys have? I wanted to go completely left field today. Oh, thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. I appreciate that sincerely. I'm very honored. I love what I do, man. It is nothing but fun. Nothing but fun. It's a lot of stress, but it's fun. You're counting your tens of dollars. Yeah, me too. I'm counting my ones. It's all right, though. I had a long career making a ton of money in the software business. And I'm way happier now. Way happier now. So what else is on your mind, guys? Let me clap into the microphone more. Does that sound good? Anything else you wanted to talk about? Derek V says, do you use the JJ's? No, I never use the ECC 83. That little thing's a piece of crap. I use the 803. The 803 is long plate. I know you don't use any short plate tubes. Those sound horrible. If you look inside your amp and you see plates that big, you got gypped. Bill Strange asked, the EL34s that you get in this amp are in great supply. Yeah, total normal production stuff. But the way we're running the tubes, it doesn't matter. You can put anything in here. It sounds great. It's not stressing them out. I mean, modern tubes I can't even put in my old Marshalls. They just blow up. Yeah, I'll start a tube company. I'd like to. If you got about $5 million I can borrow. And give me 10 years to pay it back. Explain more about the ECC 803 versus the 803. Sure, let me just show you. It's easier to do. I will show you a real tube versus a poo-poo tube. And by poo-poo, I mean, you know what I mean. So here's an 803S. Let me see if I don't even have any. I had some in here just for reference. Yeah, here's the short plate tube. This is even bigger than the 83, but you'll get the idea. I'll show you on the camera. So the size of the plate in your tube is what delivers the information. So think of it in data if you're a computer guy. So here's a JJ803S. See how long the plate is there? All right. Now here is the plate length. I'm going to turn the manufacturer around as to not embarrass them. This is the plate length on the tube that 99% of guys use in their amp. Which one do you think sounds better? I'll give you 5 seconds. Which one do you think sounds better? Hey, Fonzarelli. I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys had your time change already, didn't you? We didn't yet. We do next weekend. It's all right. It's all recorded. Do you have any questions? This is the new 412 that you see. So look inside your amp. And if you see tubes with a little tiny plate like that versus a real plate like that, you, my friend, have been swindled. You know why I say that? Because I'm a guitar player. I started watching people put these little things in amps. But do you know why people do it? Guess which one costs half as much as the other? So now you get it. And there's guys selling $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 amps with tubes like that in it. But you know what the difference in cost is? Let's just show you how everyone just copies. No one thinks. This tube cost me $4. $4. Okay? This tube cost me $9. So for $5, I can give you way better sound. So if you paid... Now, you guys buy these at a store, they'll cost more than that. They'll cost $20 or something. But if you paid $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for your amp and you see this inside of there, how does that make you feel? So look in your amps and see what's in there. Yeah, long plate preamp tubes are everywhere. They just cost more. But it's your amplifier, for God's sakes. Oh, I don't want to spend the extra $5. You know, those little tiny... Man, the one you mentioned, the JJ ECC, look how small this plate is. This is actually bigger than the ECC 83. And this is the 803 right here. Look at that. It's double. That's like saying I want to go surf the internet on a 9600 baud modem. Why would you do that? And then you know how they sell them? They dip the pins in fake gold. And let me tell you, having gold pins in a steel socket means that it's going to rust. Disparate metals will corrode when they touch each other. This is pure marketing horseshit. So, there you have it. Maybe too frank of an opinion, but it's the truth. A lot of people don't want you to know that because it hurts their business. But yeah, that's why I use these. There's a medium plate tube that Tungsol makes that we use for a phase inverter a lot. And it's still a bigger tube than this. It's a bigger plate. But from the phase inverter, yeah, the 803S is always the long plate. Yeah, so when you get 12X7s, get the 803S. This is the 803S. Let me see if I can get it where you can read the label on here. Can you see that? Neil, I don't know if the camera's focusing on it well or not. But. So, yeah, they cost more money, but they sound twice as good. So, what would you recommend for a phase inverter tube? Get something that's balanced. That's why I use the Tungsol, because they come out really, really balanced. There's a medium plate tube, which in the phase inverter, the size of the plate doesn't make that much different. Yeah, twice as good. You know. But, you know, here's the thing. If you're making an amp that has cheap parts in it and cheap transformers, this will cover that up. This will make, you know, if you build stuff out of Chinese parts and you have cheap transformers in there, it makes a lot of non-musical sounds. And this isn't capable of reproducing anything, so it all comes out the same. You can run a kazoo through this tube and it sounds the same as a 59 Les Paul. Whereas this is going to reveal everything you do. So you have to make your amp correctly. You can't use cheap transformers. You can't use Chinese parts. You can't use Chinese resistors. It'll sound horrible through here because this is a very, very accurate reproduction of what you're doing. This is poo-poo. No, Sovtek LPS is a long plate. It's the Tungsol 12AX7 reissue. The Sovtek LPS is a good long plate tube. That's what LP stands for. Long plate with a spiral winding. So, what do I think about SE amps? Single-ended amps? Oh, they're cool. They're just kind of limited. Brad says, someone with money. Yeah, I'm trying. I've actually written a business plan to make a tube factory, but it's a lot of money, and I don't know if you've read the news lately, but money ain't flowing around too much. But I've written a business plan and got the smart people and everything. I'd love to make tubes. I'm the guy who suffers all the time from people making crap tubes. Any drawback for using long plates for the PI? No. You just don't really get a lot of benefit out of it. Long plate tubes are harder to balance, because there's so much. So if you get a phase inverter, the Tungsol, the medium plate stuff works great. I like the sound of a long plate tube better in the phase inverter. But the medium plate tubes are much more consistent. The bigger they get, the more they can vary. And modern tubes just aren't nearly as consistent as old tubes. You go buy old Mullards, they're all balanced. They're all fine. Telefunkens especially, they all come out really balanced. Well, you're welcome, B767400. That's just, I've been doing this for a while. People will swindle you at every chance they get. And they market these as it's sort of like, the Clean Air Act allows people to pollute more. They market this as somehow an advantage. Yes, I don't want all the data coming through because I have a nice guitar and I don't want to hear it. They're spinning, peeing on your head and telling you it's raining. If you know what I mean. And man, I see like really expensive amps with these tubes. I'm just, good God, how can you do that? Gibson Guitar Guy says, I guess the phase inverter changes the phase of what? Well, it splits the signal for both power tubes to use. And since power tubes are push-pull, they're never on at the same time. You have to flip the phase on one side of it so that as they're going alternate, it sounds like one thing. That's what a phase inverter does. So would just switching out a 12AX7 to an 803 make a difference in a so-so? Yeah, it'll make a difference in any amp. You're never going to make a so-so amp sound great, but you can make it sound better. I mean, every amp's got a little bit of good sound in it. You can always improve amps by putting better tubes in them. Yeah, you found them for £10.50 in the UK. Yeah, that's a good retail price. It's about $17. That's about right for retail. If you're just going to buy one or two or three, I mean, I buy 50 or 100 at a time, so I get a better deal. But what does that say? Let me ask you, what does a phase inverter trim pot do, and should you mess with them and adjusting them? I don't know any amps that have a phase inverter trim pot. I know amps that have a trim pot for the bias. That's for the power tubes, though. Yeah, Fonzarelli, when you buy those, ask them for ones that come out close to book spec, because they can go wild. You know, you can get ones that are way under book spec or way above, and you don't want those. We spec them out really tightly close to book spec. Book spec means what they're supposed to do, you know. Hughes and Kettner, I don't know anything about Hughes and Kettner. That's printed circuit board stuff, and I haven't bought a new amp since the 80s. I'm ignorant, I'm sorry, Bill. I mean, you could adjust the gain on the phase inverter maybe, but I wouldn't. If you run it through a pot, it's going to sound bad. Pots don't sound very good. I mean, there's probably a great amp. I mean, I'm honestly stupid. I'm very ignorant. Last amp I bought new was a JCM 800 in the 80s, and I took it back. I played it for about 2 months and took it back. Because I did not like it. It no make me happy. The newest amp that I own right now is my 71 Marshall. So I'm a jerk. I don't mean it in a snobby way. I really don't. I'm sorry it comes across that way, but that's not what I mean at all. It's just who I am, you know. I don't even read magazines. Like, we're in all the magazines, and I just read them if we get a review, but I don't care what anybody else is building. It's so easy when you look at everyone else on the market, you can go, well, God, they're getting away with murder. I could just do that. And I don't want to do that. I want to make amps that I like, because I gig and I play, and, you know, my brother, business partner, Peter, gigs and plays, and we have to make them right. Why just say, oh, this is good enough? Good enough pisses me off. You can ask anybody here in the shop. If anybody says it's good enough to me, I get really angry. Nothing's good enough. It can always be better. We're talking about sound. We're talking about music. We're talking about guitar, man. Is anything good enough? Is it okay to have stuff that's just good enough? I will say no. Never it is. Never is. Well, the thing about printed circuit boards can sound great. I'm not against printed circuit boards. It's just that everyone that does printed circuit boards, they go do it, and the guy at the printed circuit board factory goes, look, I can cut the price by 75% if you make it on this cheap crap and use these little tiny traces and get these resistors from China and these caps from China and blah, 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 blah. And it's tempting. It's human nature. Oh, my God, I'm going to make a fortune. You know, when you buy an amp at Guitar Center for $5.99, what do you think that amp costs to make? $50? Maybe. You know, my transformer sets cost $300-400 because they're handmade by people in the United States out of quality material, quality copper. You know, the whole thing. It's quality steel. So it's the Steve Jobs of amps, baby. Well, maybe a little bit. I'm a lot nicer than Steve Jobs. Yeah, if you're ordering, Neil, you guys probably order from CE Distribution or from New Sensor. Just tell them you want ones that are spec. They're going to charge you an extra $1 a tube to spec them, but it's worth it because you don't get shitty tubes. Yeah, Bill. I mean, it's just a concept. I mean, geez, I'm a guitar player. Good enough. Oh, it's fine. Everyone does that. Oh, screw that, man. I want to sound good. I want to play. I don't care. Do people like Soldano and Mesa use cheap printed boards? No, as far as I know, those are pretty well-made printed circuit board amps. Marshall is frightening, and so is Vox right now. I can't really talk about that without getting in trouble. They have lawyers. Mesa's pretty well-made amp. Whether you like the sound of them is another conversation, but they're really rugged, tough, well-made amps. Bogner, I know, makes fantastic printed circuit board amps. They're really good. I don't know much about Soldano's. I know Mike Soldano's very respected, and I've heard through the grapevine he's a really nice guy. I've never met him, though. And I've never met Randall Smith either at Mesa. But they're well made. I mean, the guy's been around 40 years. He obviously knows what he's doing. I did not read about the Gibson raid. I don't really know much about it. It's a big company. I don't know how Henry, the president of the company, can understand what's going on at every loading dock around the world that he buys wood from. So I don't really hold him too responsible for it, other than he's the chief, and the chief has to take it. Like if you're the leader of your company, you have to take responsibility for it, even if it's not your fault. So I don't really know what's going on. What costs so much over here? Mesa Boogie? Yeah, I mean, amps blow up once in a while. Even the best made stuff blows up. It's a ton of electricity. And the thing that you have to deal with that you can't predict is tubes. And if a tube really arcs and shorts out, it can cause damage. Ed Roman slams everyone. Yeah, that's right. Ed Roman's not what I would consider a person of reference. It's all about the Indian law they didn't violate. Sounds like they're pushing Gibson to get their labor. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. 412 cab looks great. Thank you. Here, have a look again. That's the producer on top of the 412. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's everyone, Henry, people like to beat up on Henry. I don't know everything that goes on in the loading dock in my company, let alone, a company the size of Gibson. I'm pleading ignorance. I don't know enough information to have a, I don't think it's politics, Neil. I think he's just talking. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I don't know enough to have an intelligent opinion. I don't work at Gibson, so I bet most of the people at Gibson don't even know what's going on. Maybe Henry and 3 or 4 people on the board probably know what's really going on. So, when is the dinner box amp going to be unveiled on the broadcast? Probably about 3 weeks, maybe. Something like that. How much louder is the 412 compared to the 212? A little bit. It's noticeable. It definitely sounds a lot bigger. I don't know if you can hear it on the broadcast. I don't know how well it was coming through on the internet, but it sounds big. Like I'm hearing it rumble. It sounds very, very big. It's got a lot of grunt to it, but it's not mushy grunt. It's not like sloppy low end like most modern 412s. It's very tight, punchy. Sounded huge. Good. Yeah, no, it sounds bigger than the 212, loud. It's probably a couple more decibels, but the low end is sexy, for lack of a better word. It's very enticing. Yeah, well, the rumble is where it's at, Brett, but it's got to be good rumble. If you don't make your cabinet with proper joints, if it's got, nails and rabbit joints in there. It's mushy low end. It's just that, which sounds okay when you're sitting playing by yourself, but when you're in a band, it sounds horrible. You just lose. No, it's closed back. Yeah, it's closed back. So go to CD distribution and ask who from textbook reference preamps is. Well, just, go, the spec sheet on a 12AX7 says it should draw this much current and have this much transconductance. So you just want it as close to that as possible. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but if you just say book spec, they'll know what you mean. Yeah, they take good care of us. So does New Sensor. New Sensor will spec it. They charge you for it, though. Because it's time. They have to put it on a machine and test it. So, but anyway, that's about it, guys. It's 1:25. I'm getting pretty hungry for lunch. Any other questions? Anything else you want to do? Which begs the question, why aren't they book spec already? Modern tubes, man, they're junk. They're horrible. Book spec's just some bit of trivia. Even the manufacturers, you call them and say, hey, man, these tubes are all out of spec. They go, yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're going to buy somebody else's tubes? They're all the same. They got a lock on the game. Are you doing multi-speaker blues in G12? I can. I'll offer this cabinet any way you want to do it. How much do you have to put down at Boutique Tone to get this ordered? Well, 50% of list price. So like $18.50 US. There might be a small markup there because of customs and stuff like that. So call Jeremy, but 50% of what he's charging. I don't know what it comes out to in Canadian dollars. And he does have to pay some customs duties on our stuff coming in, so I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but ask for Jeremy. Tell him Dan sent you. And we'll get you going. When is Line 6 going to make a 65 amps model for their pods? They already model our amps. California Boutique. Seriously, I'm not kidding. They come over here and buy them and model them. It doesn't sound anything like our amps, but they model it. Yeah, they don't want to pay. They're not going to pay me. They just call it something else. So I just cooperate with them because I figure it's good publicity. Yeah, California Boutique is 65. They have modeled the London and the Soho and the Monterey. It's kind of funny, isn't it? They don't really sound... They don't really... No, it's not even in the manual, Brett. They'd have to pay me if they use my name. And what am I going to do? Sue Line 6? It's flattery. That's all it is flattery. I appreciate it. I respect it. It's fine. No, they bring their amps over here for tune-ups when they're doing it. I mean, they're really open about it. What am I going to do? Take them to court? All they're doing is making people aware of 65 amps. It's fine. Because nobody's on the fence between a Line 6 and a 65. I'm not losing any business to them. They're not losing any business to me. Oh, I went in to buy a modeling amp and I walked out with a 65. Really? You'll never hear that story. So I just take it as flattery. I'm honored. It's very nice. Right. I went in to buy a pod for $200 and I walked out with a $3,700 amplifier. Yeah. No, I mean, they'll tell you if you ask them what they did it. I'll tell you because they bring their amps in here for me to tune them up. They play them all the time over there. It's nice. So it's no problem. But I don't mind at all. Well, anyway, fellas, I need to run. It's 1:30 here, and I know it's late in Europe. And I really appreciate all you guys' times. Great questions today, too. Thank you very much for that. It was nice. I had a good time chatting. But we'll do, I'll probably do the producer again next week. Different guitars, and hopefully have a faceplate on it. And so save up your questions and thoughts. In the meantime, you can always get a hold of me, Dan at 65 Amps, and I'm also on Facebook. You can contact me anytime. Tartan Special, did you just log in because of the time change? Thank you guys. Very nice. I appreciate all the kind words. I'm glad you learned something today. You're welcome, Neil. There's no secrets. I'm not telling any secrets. I've just been paying attention for 30 odd years. I've been doing this. So. Yeah, Fonzarelli, I'll have it posted. And you too, Tartan. Did they not tell people in Britain that you're having a time change? I remember I lived in England. I remember them telling us. You guys are just... Is that what it is? Most builders don't tell secrets. You know why, Neil? Because they're insecure. They don't know what they're doing. They got to hide it. All they're doing, most guys are just copying old amps. I mean, 99% of amps are the same 5 circuits that have been around for 30 years. I'm not going to make a deluxe. I'm not going to make a plexi. I'm not going to make an AC30. I'm not going to make a Bassman. You know, it's like, just go buy those amps. No matter how bad an old amp is, you can put $400 into it and it sounds great. So, why would you buy a clone of a plexi from me when you can just go buy a plexi? I'm making new stuff. New stuff. But yeah, you look at make you a plexi, please. Just go buy a plexi. Why don't you just do that? You can go buy it. Last plexi I bought was $1,200 used on eBay. $1,200. Shit, I can't even make one for $1,200. It sounds right. So, anyway, you get my point, right? If you want to buy a deluxe, go get a deluxe. Oh, I got a Tweed Deluxe. Really? Who makes it? Oh, it's not Fender. Okay, well, it's not a Tweed Deluxe. Just go make, I bought an AC30. Oh, really? What year is it? 2010? Obviously, you've never played a real AC30. You would never do that if you had played one. Well, thanks, Brett. Yeah, get an Empire. Then you've got a plexi and some other stuff. And it's not going to break down. It's not made out of cheap parts. Anyway, I got to run, fellas. I'm starving. I'm starting to get loopy. I'm so hungry. Hungry. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, it was fun today. I had a good time talking. Good speaking with you on the phone on Halloween. Oh, cool. Oh, well, thank you. B767400. I don't know if that's the right handle, but yeah, I remember speaking to you on... Do you have an English accent? Are you English? I think I remember that conversation. Guten Appetit, bis nächste Woche. Ja, vielen Dank, Goofy65. Ja, ich habe große Hunger. Und dann schlafe ich. Oh, Boeing, you're in Washington. Right, I remember now. Okay, cool. That's what the 767-400 is. Got it. Got it. Go have a lunch and have a beer. Why not? I am. If I have a beer right now, I'll fall asleep. Very good. All right, fellas. This was fun. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. I'll have this posted on Facebook in about 5 minutes for those of you who missed it. So So once again, it's November 2nd, 2011. And my name is Dan Boul. I'm president of 65 Amps. You can get a hold of me at dan@65amps.com. And I will see you next Wednesday. All righty?